Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be cutting and sewing this dress that you can see on your screen, and we'll start by cutting the upper bodies. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 4 because I'm cutting both the front and the back upper bodies together. For the back, I left my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. So I'm going to illustrate how I folded my fabric with this pattern paper. So I folded into 2 like this. Just like you fold your fabric when you're cutting out a kimono, I folded into 2 and then I folded it over, leaving my zipper allowance at the back. Okay, so as you can see, the 4 ends of my fabric is open because the front and the back of this dress is going to be open. So even if I folded it, I'm still going to open it up. Okay, so this is how I folded my fabric. Okay, so go ahead and start taking measurements. The first thing I'll do is to go down from the shoulder by about 1.5 inches. This 1.5 inches that I'm going down with is what I'm going to use to create my casing for the ruche on the shoulder. Okay, so I'm marking 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'll connect into a straight line as you can see me doing. The next thing I'll do now is to mark the length of my half length. So as you can see on the thumbnail, this ruche area ended at the under bust point. Okay, so mine is going to end at the under bust point, then my band is going to complete it. Okay, so my under bust, from my shoulder to my under bust, is 13 inches. So I'm marking 13 inches all the way. After doing that, I'll connect into a straight line and I'll cut off the excess fabric. Okay, so my band is going to complete my half length. The next thing I'll do is to measure the wideness of my fabric. So what I have here is 28 inches. You can make it as wide as you want because whatever you have here is what you are going to gather into the band. I hope you understand. So the fabric I'm using is 28 inches. If you want yours to be fuller, you can increase it. Okay, so the next thing I'll do now is to mark my neck width. Okay, so I'll be using a neck width of 3.5 inches. I'll indicate that. So I'm taking my measurement from the front, not from the zipper allowance. Okay, for the neck depth of the back, I'll go down by 2.5 inches. I'll indicate that. Then I'll connect from that 2.5 inches to meet the 3.5 inches width like this. So for the front, it's going to be like a V neckline, is opened. Okay, go ahead and extend your neck depth into the zipper allowance. Okay, so the front is open, is in form of a V neckline. So just go ahead and connect from your 3.5 inches neck width all the way to the base, depending on how open you want the chest line to be. So I didn't connect mine all the way. You can see me using my hand to just bring it inward a bit, just so the chest line is not too opened. Okay, after doing that, guys, I'll go ahead and cut. So I'll first of all cut out the back neckline. Now that I'm done cutting out the back, I'll go ahead and cut out the front as you can see me doing. So I'm following the shape that I used my freehand to create. I'll cut to meet the neck width as you can see. So this is how open the front neckline is going to be. So you can make yours wider, you can make it deeper. Okay, so after cutting, guys, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do now is to open the shoulder area and the sleeve area. Okay, so it's unfold now. What I'll do is to just split everything open, but before I do that, I'll go ahead and notch my zipper allowance, so I know where my zipper allowance is. Okay, after doing that, I'll split the side. I'll also split the shoulder. Go ahead and open up my fabric for you guys to see. So I have 2 for the front and I have 2 for the back. Okay, so this is the back fabric. As you can see, I have my zipper allowance at the back. Okay, I'm going to place the front on the back okay, just so you guys can see what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is it. The next thing I'm going to do now is to hem. Okay, so what I'll do is to hem the neckline. You can cut out facing for it. Okay, the down part is where we're going to gather into our band. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hem the neckline. Okay, I'll also hem the sleeves area. Okay, so that's what I'll do. Since we are not closing the other end, which is the sleeves area, I'll go ahead and hem it. I'll hem the neckline. I'll also repeat the same thing for the other ones. So guys, to cut out the lower bodies, I've gone ahead to fold my fabric like we are cutting a 720 degrees flay. So I will illustrate using my pattern paper because my table is quite small. Okay, so I first of all went ahead to fold my fabric into two like this, and then I folded it like this. So this is how I folded my fabric. Okay, so we are cutting out a flay. So depending on how full you want the lower bodies to be, as you can see on the thumbnail, is not gathered at all, it's just one flare. But if you want yours to be fuller, if you want to like gather it to the waistline, you can cut out two of these, join it together, and then gather it all around the waistline. Okay, what I'll do now is to add 1 inch to my waist circumference, and I'll divide it by 4. The 1 inch is going to be for my zipper allowance. So I placed my tape like this and I marked what I got from the measurement. After doing that, I went ahead to roll a straight line across, so that point is going to serve as my waistline. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut it out. Okay, so remember this fabric is folded into 4, so you are dividing you add 1 inch depending on the zipper allowance. You want to use 1 inch or 1.5 inches to your waist circumference, and you divide it by 4. That is what you are going to place. So the next thing is to mark the length of my skirt. To do that, you are going to take out your half length. So my half length is going to be 16 inches, which I already have 13 inches from the ruche. Okay, so I'll complete the remaining 3 inches with my band. So I'm taking out the 16 inches and I'm marking my dress length all the way around. My dress length is about 40 inches, so I marked all the way around. After marking, I'll go ahead and cut out the excess fabric. So guys, this is what I have after cutting. Like I said, if you want the down part of your dress to be really full, you can cut out 2 of these, and then you're going to sew them together and you're going to gather it to the waist area. Okay, but I just want this single flare because this is what you can see on the thumbnail. So go ahead and measure what you have on the waistline and make sure is the exact measurement. If it's too much, you can go ahead and reduce it. Okay, because this flare does not have any side seam, we're not going to sew it on the side. Okay, so if it's too much, go ahead and trim it out, and if it's too small, go ahead and open it up. Okay, so I've gone ahead to hem the neckline area, and I've also hemmed the side. Okay, as you can see, the side is the sleeves area. Okay, so I've done that for the 4 pieces of fabric. I'm going to arrange them in place like this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to pin the shoulders together. So like I mentioned earlier, we'll be ruching on the shoulder area. Okay, so that is why I came down by 1.5 inches when I was drafting. Okay, you can see the 1.5 inches mark that I still have on the shoulders. So I'll pin my fabric in place, making sure that it's sitting well, and then I'll head over to my sewing machine and I'll sew on that 1.5 inches straight down. Okay, I'll also arrange the other side of my upper bodies and I'll mark the 1.5 inches. I'll also go ahead and sew. After sewing, this is what I have. I went ahead to iron it flat. So what I'll do is to sew on a straight line. Okay, this is to create a casing for my rope to pass through. I've gone ahead to sew. I repeated the same thing for the other one. Also gone ahead to cut out the ropes that I'll be using for the drawstring. I have 4 of them. We have 2 casing on each of the upper bodies. So what I'll do is to pass the rope through the casing. So one side of the rope is already closed. That is the part that is going to be on the sleeves area, and the side that is open is going to be on the neckline area, which you are going to stitch down and cut out the excess. Okay, so I'm passing the rope. The rope should be as long as you want it to be. Go ahead and just cut it out, fold it into 2, sew it, and then turn it inside out and iron. Okay, so I've passed one of the rope. I'll go ahead and also pass the second one through the other channel. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to stitch it down on the neckline area. Okay, I'll go ahead and just drag it in and I'll stitch it. As you can see, after stitching, I'll cut off the excess. So everything that I did here, I'm going to repeat it on the other piece also. So you're going to ruche it like this once you are done. So guys, next now I'll do is to turn my fabric to the wrong side, and I'm going to stitch just a little stitch on this sleeves area because I want to gather it and I want the fabric to be together. I repeat the same thing for the other side. So I've stitched it down a little. You can see what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out my band. Okay, so your band should be your exact waist measurement plus 1 inch, the same measurement that we use to cut out the flare. Okay, that's what you're going to use to cut out your band, and you're going to cut out 2 pieces for the band. Okay, one is going to be the lining and one is going to be the main piece. So these are my 2 upper bodies, and we're going to complete them now using the band. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out my band and I ironed air stay to it to strengthen my fabric. So the next thing I'll do is to measure the height of my band. You can see it's 4 inches. It's supposed to be 3 inches, but the excess 1 inch that I added is going to serve as my stitching allowance for both the up and the down. So I'll be left with my 3 inches. So the waist measurement I'm working with is 28 inches plus 1 inch is 29 inches. So what I have on this band folded into 2 is 14.5 inches. So I've gone ahead to notch the center. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in the upper bodies. So there are 2 ways to go about this. The first option is to gather one part from that notch in the center. You gather this, make sure everything fits into the side of the band. Okay, but don't gather the zipper allowance. Okay, just gather all these parts to one side, and then from that notch, if you want your chest area to be open, just place them side by side. But if you don't want it to be open, just overlap them as you can see me doing, and then gather this part all the way to the end of this side of the band, but don't gather your zipper allowance. Okay, so that is one option. Okay, so once you pin them like this, you can go ahead and cover it up with your lining piece. Like I said, you should cut out 2 bands. Okay, you cover it up so the rough edges will be inside, and then you go ahead and sew. And the other method is you are going to gather everything together, okay, to make it easy. So what I'll do is to overlap the center because I don't want my chest area to be revealing. As you can see on the thumbnail, they did not overlap it. Okay, so the chest area was a little bit revealing. If that's what you want, you don't have to overlap like I did. Okay, so all you have to do is to place them side by side and then go ahead and gather after the zipper allowance all the way to the other end. So you're gathering everything together at once and you stop before the zipper allowance. So I've gone ahead to gather everything in place, and this is what I have. Okay, this is what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my band. Okay, and I'm going to place this on the band. So go ahead and knot the center of your band like I did earlier, so you know where to place it. Okay, so center to center, where I overlapped is my center. I'm going to place it on it like this. Okay, right side facing right side, and I'm going to pin. Okay, after pinning, I'm going to arrange everything to fit into this side of the band. I'll also arrange the other side to fit into the other side of the band, and then I'm going to use my lining piece underneath. I'll cover it up, so once I sew, the rough edges is going to be inside. So I've gone ahead to sew, guys, and this is what I have. You can see how I gathered everything except the zipper allowance area. Okay, so you can see the rough edges is inside, so it's not going to show outside. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my skirt part. So make sure that the length of your band is the same thing as the waist area of your skirt. Okay, so what you have to do now is to just pin the skirt part to your band. What I'll do is to fold the skirt part into 2, and then I'm going to notch the center. Okay, so I want to pin them center to center. Okay, go ahead and notch. After notching, you are going to now pin center to center. You sew from the center to one end, and you sew from the center to the other end. Okay. So guys, after sewing the skirt part to the upper bodice, this is what I have. The next thing I did was to sew from the waistline. I placed my zip on the back and I sewed from where I want my zip to stop to the base of the dress. So the last thing I'll do now is to fix my zipper to the zipper allowance. So this dress does not have any side seam. I'll go ahead and just fix my zipper to the back, and then I'll overlock the base. I don't want to hem it, but if you can't, go ahead and hem it and give your dress a good press. So guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.